Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Real Life Parenting Podcast. This is Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Beaner's Fun Cuts for Kids hair salons. Parenting is hard, haircuts shouldn't be. Visit beanersfuncuts.com for a location near you.
I've had the privilege of attending sessions with today's guest, Erin Skye Kelly. It's amazing to watch her ignite a room full of people and inspire them to clarity and action around their goals. And we're really excited to share your gifts with our listeners today, Erin. Thank you for being here.
I'm so pumped to be here because I think what you two do is remarkable in terms of parenting and inspiring parents to really be authentic and intentional in their parenting. And I could not be more thrilled to have a conversation with you today.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yes. So, Erin, how did you get to this place of encouraging and motivating people?
Oh, my goodness. I grew up in a household where there was none of that. It came just simply out of my own desire to wonder what it would be like to be able to breathe life into people instead of this experience that I had sort of had, recognizing as a grown-up how damaged my own self-esteem had become and how frustrated I was, and then learning where confidence really comes from, and deciding, if I could encourage or help people become more confident, what it could possibly do to help change in the world. And so it really came across by accident. I was in the media is sort of how I started. I wanted to work for MTV. That was my big goal. But my grandfather, who was quite wise and who I loved dearly, used to say to me, well, one day you're going to be really fat and ugly and nobody's going to want to put you on TV, so you have to keep that in mind. Sounds like terrible advice, but it was really good because it got me into business. So as a business owner then, I started to really think of how I could encourage and inspire my employees to be really anything that they wanted, to sort of have no ceiling on their potential. And so that's kind of how it happened. And then I started running these little seminars for my own employees every year at New Year's. And they started asking if they could bring their friends or their spouses or their kids. And so that's really what started the whole Transformation Weekend movement.
That's incredible. What a great start. And it has really grown. It's really grown from just those tiny workshops to impacting hundreds of people all the time.
Yeah.
That's so neat. We know that you're a parent, and we're wondering if you are willing to share one real-life parenting tool that works for you and your family.
It's been such a gift having the background that I have before I became a parent, because I was a perfect parent before I had kids, and so
weren't we all?
And my firstborn, I realized quite early on that there was something developmentally delayed in him. And he was, he's on the autism spectrum. And it's been such a fascinating experience learning how to break down all of the things that we take for granted into little tiny pieces. So I don't have this same sort of frustrations that I find a lot of parents have with their kids who should be learning. I really have learned to go, okay, if he needs to learn to use scissors, what are pre-scissor skills? What is the first thing he needs to be able to do? He needs to be able to pinch his index finger with his thumb together. So how are we going to do that? Let's sing a song about that. Let's make up a little game about that. So I really was able to break down all of these little pieces. And I learned that through a book that my child psychologist recommended to us called The Denver Model. And it's for children who are developmentally really early and maybe have some delays. It really breaks down every motor skill, every brain skill, every cognitive process into little tiny steps so that it becomes like a checklist, and you can really kind of go through and go, what do we need to do next? What do we need to do next? And then the tool that I use, the parenting tool that I use every day in conjunction with the mini goal setting is presence. Because I found that my children can remember the 2 times that I've yelled at them in their lives. So I'm lucky that I have figured this out a little bit early. But to me, whenever I was frustrated was when I would snap at my kids or yell at my kids. It was always when something was wrong with me. It was never when something was wrong with them. So if they were begging for my attention or they weren't getting something or, couldn't tie their shoelaces and I was, come on, let's go, it was because I hadn't allowed enough time in the schedule to give them the context that they needed in order to learn. Or it's because I was stressed about bills, or I was stressed about where I had to be or slept in or something like that. When I really learned to just stop and be present with whatever I'm doing when I'm doing it, that tool has created the most beautiful parenting experience for me. And I really am able to, when I recognize that I'm starting to feel frustrated or my children are frustrated, if I just stop whatever it is I'm doing, I turn off the stove, I stop chopping the vegetables or whatever, and I just get down at their level and listen to them and really pay attention. And I notice everything from, their little freckles to how many eyelashes they have, and I can just stay present with them. It really has created such a beautiful relationship of give and take learning for us both.
Wow, that is awesome. And I'm tingling because Julie and I have really noticed in our coaching and just real life, you nailed it on the head, Erin. This is what kids are craving. And Julie and I spell love Time, of course, because that's really, that's really all kids want. But they want your full presence. So they want time. And they don't need your time all the time, do they?
Right. Oh, that's such a good point, Gail, because when I've given them attention, then they go off and play on their own, right? But when they come back and they want to show me the Lego they built and I can stop what I'm doing and give them 3 minutes, it actually buys me more time to cook dinner. It's self-initiative, but I just mean it really does allow us all to live and experience. And I just feel when I'm not present, when I'm those days, because we all have them, right, where there's just so much going on and you've overcommitted to too many things, or I'm busy people pleasing or something silly that I can, fall into those old habits. Then I end up completely missing what happened that day. I couldn't tell you what happened. If you asked me 3 days later, what did you do on Tuesday? I wouldn't know because I was so busy doing stuff. I wasn't able to really notice what was happening that day in terms of my growth and my kids' growth. And, when I really want to savor the food that I'm making or try a new recipe, or I really want to be present with that experience so that it's memorable.
Yeah, that's great. And that's all we have is time, right? So that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that with us. I just want to get back a bit when you were saying, how did you get to the place of encouraging and motivating people? And Julie mentioned you help people set goals, and we do that as well at Parenting Power when we meet with families in our family meetings, a time to sit down in a quiet moment as a family present to set some goals around anything. It could be, what do we want to do for fun as a family, or what's working in our family, what's not, how can we move the dial, goals perhaps for older kids in high school with academics. It could be around anything. So what do you think is standing in the way of people, adults, families, children? What is standing in the way of people achieving their goals?
Oh, this is such a great question, Gail. Okay, it's vision, because so many people enter into a relationship without knowing what the purpose of it is or what the vision of it is. And so if you can get to the parents, really, we want our retirement years to look like. And most parents haven't thought about that. What do we want our marriage to look like? What do we want it to feel like? How do we want our home to feel when people walk in? What do we want our children to know about our values and our belief systems? And what values do we want them to create for themselves? And all of those things. So it's really the visioning, sort of creating that vision, because then all of the other decisions and goals either line up with the vision or they don't. And if they don't line up, then we don't get distracted by it. We can stay focused on what we want to do. When I meet parents who are, before they become parents and they're pregnant, or they're thinking of getting pregnant, I'll always say, well, what character traits do you want your children to have? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what characteristics, when this child becomes a grown-up, how do you want your child to be described? And then it's so much easier then to create a vision for how we're going to parent when we know we want this child to be described as a person of integrity. We want them to be described as fun. We want them to be wise or smart or intelligent or physically active or whatever. Because then we can say, okay, well, now what activities and behaviors line up with that? And maybe pizza every night doesn't line up with that, but pizza once a week does, right? Maybe, who knows? But it allows you to really work together towards a common goal in parenting rather than nitpicking each other's individual daily disciplines or parenting styles or frustrations. And it really allows the children, too, to see this is where I'm headed, and it allows them to overcome the obstacle that's right in front of them today when they know there's a bigger picture.
That's really a great place to start. When I worked with you, we created vision boards, and it was in one of your transformation weekends. And watching the entire room even ponder that concept and then have everybody build them and then have the fun of them sharing, it's like it clarified the path that was there. Not necessarily how you're going to get there, but at least there's, as you say, a vision, something to work towards. We always talk about parents knowing their values and their vision to step forward. So thank you for clarifying that.
What is it that you guys do for the first step?
Well, values and vision. So what are the values that you want to teach? So right here, right now, what are the values that you're going to begin teaching and living? Because the only way to teach values is to model them. And then exactly what you said, what are the characteristics that we want for this child when they're an adult? Because whatever it is, as you described when you were talking about teaching your little one, what are the steps that we need to take to get there? How do we start that? And now is the time that we build that. We don't wait till they're 17 and a half and say, okay, I'd really like you to be caring and kind. No, we start that now. We start modeling how that works and giving kids the opportunity to show that. And what that looks like for a 2-year-old is different than what it looks like for an 8-year-old or a 13-year-old, but it grows with the child for sure.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that.
So what are some of the key steps for families wanting to establish and achieve goals? So once they see what the vision is, are there key steps that you can recommend to help them get there?
Yes, and this is where I'm so fascinated to talk to you, because I don't know if this is in line or out of line, because I, of course, am not a parenting expert. I'm just a human. So I'm curious to know if this is what works for you. But I always find once you have the goal, that always becomes more important than the how. So once we sort of know what it is that we want to do and we establish why we're doing it and why it's significant for our family, then we figure out the little tiny steps, if we were to back them up, what daily disciplines do we need to instill to make sure that this happens? And let's say I have a family that wants to pay off a bunch of debt so that they can maybe go to Disneyland or something like that. So the Disneyland would go up on the vision board as like, hey kids, we're going to stop buying you toys at the dollar store because mommy and daddy are on a journey here, and our goal is to get us all to Disneyland paid for in cash, for example. And so it allows the kids and everybody to sort of buy into the vision. And so what do you want to do in Disneyland? Well, I want to ride this roller coaster. Well, that goes on the vision board. And what does your sister want to do? Well, she wants to buy one of those lollipops that's the size of her head. Perfect. It goes on the vision board. And then every day when we're making decisions, we're choosing Disneyland over the thing we want today. So if we know Disneyland's going to cost X amount of dollars and we know that this is our budget, this is what we're going to have to save. Now, we know that kids, if they want to buy souvenirs, they might have to contribute in a certain way. So how do we accomplish that? Well, maybe every day after school, we're going to no electronics for a little while. We're going to come home. We're going to do some reading. We're going to do our homework. We're going to shower before dinner. I don't know. I'm making this up. But that's what's going to work for our family. And then once we've done the things that get us closer to Disneyland, then we're going to have electronics and movies and whatever else we're going to do. But it's the little points, it's the tiny little pieces every day that move the needle, not these big grand gestures that come out of nowhere. And then this is the part that I'm curious to know what you would do, is I always tell people just reward the heck out of the effort. And so you got to high five your spouse when they come home and they saved $20 at the grocery store, so now you have $20 extra to go to Disneyland. The kids need to see that. There needs to be butt wiggle dancing in the kitchen when we achieve a goal, right? Like when the kids do something, I clean my room. There's super big praise and high fives and that kind of a thing. There's high expectations, but really, really high support for those expectations. What do you think? What do you guys do? What do you recommend?
Yeah, well, we parallel a lot of that. So for sure, what perhaps your vision board is what we do in weekly family meetings, where we get together and share as a family. If there's an issue, which, and they're different for every family, and Julie and I always say there's a solution for every family. It's not the same one, though, right? So goals for families are different, and we outline those. And then we'll say, okay, we're going to work on this as a family by doing 1, 2, and 3 for a week. And then we're going to come back together and see how that's going. And with parenting and discipline, which children need, then we also establish consequences. But there's positive consequences along with negative consequences. We just need to allow people to own their own choices and learn and grow from that. So we're not punishing those choices. We're learning and growing and adjusting and supporting as we follow the path to the goal we want to get to.
Yeah, I love that, because I think sometimes when we confuse discipline and punishment, I think as grown-ups, like we see them as the same thing, because that's how I don't know about most of you, but I feel like my generation's parents, if something went wrong, it was like, well, here's what went wrong and here's the punishment and I hope you do better next time. But there wasn't any discussion around, oh, how come that happened? And getting me to sort of own it and think about it. I was more afraid of getting in trouble than I was about trying again and having something be successful.
Yes, and when we coach families, when there is a mistake done, we focus on the behavior, not the child. So we're not punishing the child as a human being at all. We're disciplining the behavior that was chosen, and behavior is just behavior. Behavior can always change.
Oh, I love that.
One of the words that really stood out for me that did lead to a cringy face and then there was a smile afterwards was when you said you reward the heck out of behavior. And the reason the cringy face came along is because often in today's society, reward looks like buying something from the dollar store or candy or some
a chocolate at Starbucks.
Yes, a thing. But then the smile came onto my face because what you said was, we give a high five, we give a dance, we encourage, and we say, hey, I knew we could do this. We're working as a team towards something. And that is something also at Parenting Power that we really believe, that we don't necessarily need to have a party every time someone moves the needle a little bit, only because it's not astonishing that it happened. Like, hey, this is something we knew you could do. Rock on. Let's keep doing it.
Right.
And it's lovely to notice those things. And again, the presence, the recognition, instead of just some material thing that ends up being tossed away 5 minutes later when the new material thing comes along, that's really meaningful. So the high fives, hugs, recognition, those are all
bum
things
dance. Or bum wiggle.
Yeah,
the
wiggly bum dance.
Well, I think it's important for them to be able to be proud of themselves when they've worked hard, because I think that's where the association grows in my experience. I don't want them to ever do something because they want praise from me. I want them to do it because they feel proud of themselves for having done it, right? And so when I can celebrate with them in terms of, not buying them something or rewarding them, I find that they just sort of, they want to do it for their own butt wiggle dance. Like
and moving the team.
He's got one song. He's got a song that we have to play. He loves the beat of the song. The lyrics are questionable, but when he comes, there's times when he's like, let's go home and have a dance party. I'm like, what happened today? He's like, I got a home run in kickball. I'm like, all right. So we load up the song and he gives her, and he's like, because he struggles athletically, right? And so he was really proud of himself. And so he wanted to celebrate. And that lit me up in such a way of like, okay, he doesn't need from me well done in kickball. He needs the song to be able to be like, oh yeah, I'm the man.
Yeah. Celebration and recognition. That sounds really lovely. And really what it's about coming home and being together and growing as a team, because we're all part of that family team and that community. And so when one of us has success, it's nice because it affects all of us. It's a really great feeling.
Erin, speaking with you today has been so interesting. Thank you for sharing your information with us. Now, if listeners want to find out more information from you and about you, where's the best place for them to follow you?
Well, everywhere on the internet, it's just my full name, Erin Skye Kelly, so ErinSkyeKelly on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. ErinSkyeKelly.com is my website. We do have a website for our weekends called transformationweekend.ca, but Erin Skye Kelly sort of has everything there. And I do want to let you know that while I am really great at goal setting and all that other stuff with my children, I will screw them up in other ways. So
we all get our kids up.
Make sure to get parenting advice from you, not necessarily me.
Thanks so much for being here, Erin. Just great.
Thank you. So much fun. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
To learn more about Parenting Power, check out our website, parentingpower.ca, visit our Facebook page, or follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Parenting Power.